Hello, Internet. I'm Evan Dashevsky, features editor with PCMag.com. Welcome to The Convo. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the dawn of home computing. Now, when this topic comes up, people sometimes forget one of the most important names, Atari. Now, Atari has a reputation for many people just being a gaming console, but oh no. It was so much more. Okay, so several models were fairly versatile home computing systems, which we'll jump into. It wouldn't be so outlandish to say that Atari was instrumental in kicking the home computing revolution of the 70s and 80s. So to help flesh out that history, I'm glad to welcome today's guest. If you read PC Mag, then you're familiar with his work. Jamie Lendino is currently He's the editor-in-chief at our sister publication, ExtremeTech, and his new book is out right now, Breakout, How Atari 8-Bit Computers Defined a Generation. It's available now on Amazon. Check it out. Jamie, welcome to The Convo.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so for those of you at home, the show is called The Convo, not The Dialogue. So if you have any questions, ask them in the comments, and Social Pete will read them off later in the show. Now, if you're watching this after the fact and you're listening to the podcast and you have any questions, tough luck. Okay, so Jamie, did I oversell Atari's part in home computing?
Not particularly. It wasn't the first home computer. There were three that came out in 1977, and this one didn't come out till late 79. A lot of people remember the Apple II most of all. Yeah. There's also the TRS-80, and it was the Commodore PET 2001. But the Atari was the first one with coprocessors, which made it play video games at a much higher level than those other three machines. And so this was actually a very popular machine throughout the 80s.
Okay, so what made you want to write a whole book about this? Because this is in depth. If you like Atari, this is what you should get.
I remember so much of it. Like it kind of informs and fuels everything I think about with computers and with tech today. And I just wanted to, it almost feels like it could be easily lost, even though there's a lot of people today working to preserve it, which I mentioned a lot of those people in the book. But yeah, it was so much of my childhood. Yeah. I got it when I was 8 years old. And for the next several years, I lived and breathed this machine.
So let's actually talk some of the models. Now, I grew up with the 2600, as I'm sure a lot of people did. That's like the popular Atari kind of gaming system. But then they kind of came out with these, which are really home computers. I mean, this is the PC here with the keyboard and everything.
Right.
So let's actually maybe talk about some of the things we have here on the desk and like what time they came out. So first we'll start with this one. What are we looking at?
Sure. This is the Atari 800. The first two machines that they made that were home computers were the 400 and the 800.
This is yours from back in the day?
No, this is another one. I talk about my regret selling some of these about 15, 20 years ago because when you live in New York, you have no room for anything. Yeah. So I had to go out and rebuy all sorts of stuff to do the book. But this came out in 79. Yeah. The 400 also came out in 79. There was a lot of tension inside Atari because there was some disagreement about whether or not they were going to build a successor to the 2600, which then was called the VCS, the video computer system, or if they were going to make a home computer. Right. And the home computer won out. I think Warner Communications bought Atari in 1976 from Nolan Bushnell, and they decided to make a home computer to go after Apple. And that's kind of how this was born. Even so, it contained all these gaming parts because that's where the original design was heading. Yeah. And it just ended up being, well, to me at least, the best of both worlds. Okay.
So so you bought this system and you would hook it up to your actual TV.
Right.
Right. So it didn't come with like the monitor or anything?
No, Atari didn't even make a monitor. Yeah. This was actually the first PC that worked directly with a television. There was a cable you can use on either side, and it had the one in the back here. You can use the same switch box that you used to use to set from TV to game behind your TV back in 2600 days. It's the same thing.
And you could do basic like word processing on this sort of thing, or like what? Aside from gaming, what could you do with this?
Well, that was the thing. They were trying to push the business aspects of it, but it didn't really work out that way. Some people used it for it. They could do spreadsheets. You could do word processing. The print shop was a big thing. We all printed our greeting cards in stationery. Yeah. It had some financial software. Yeah. I don't go too much. I mentioned it all in the book, but I don't go too much into it because I was playing all the games.
Of course,
and that was the thing that I remember the most.
Oh, and we'll get to the games too. Facebook, you have a question.
How did the Atari PCs compare to the Commodore 64 and Apple II?
A lot of people love the Commodore 64.
Oh, sure. And there was a rival. Like, I joked that I was, an early fanboy for the Atari. Yeah. But I would say, the Commodore 64 sucked, and no. I mean, they all had their pluses and minuses. The C64 came out in 82 and was, it didn't have as fast chips inside as this machine, and it only had 3 voices instead of 4, but it had more vibrant color, and it was at a lower price, and it ended up, and they were just much more, Commodore was much more on the ball about getting people to develop for it. Whereas Atari, this machine came out, and all they did is say, we're not going to tell anybody. We're going to keep all the inner workings of this machine close to our chest. And in fact, we'll sue you if you try and write software for it.
Okay.
So the first 2 years, they pretty much wasted because they did that. So the Commodore came right out of the gate very strong.
So they didn't want people to add to their ecosystem. They wanted to have a less good ecosystem.
That was back when they didn't have enough examples of why that's a terrible idea.
Right.
So that's what they did, unfortunately. And that kind of hobbled the machine. And
Right.
it wasn't until 82 or 83 you started seeing really good third-party software come out. The Apple II was first, and that had expansion capability. You could put cards in an Apple II. It was more of a serious computer, and it was also, people remember it for VisiCalc, the first spreadsheet, first application for home computers that did really well in businesses. This you can expand, but it was via rather expensive SIO cables.
Just
that,
show some of the adorableness on the side there.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, you're right.
It's also
I'm sure everybody remembers that.
It's in the early '80s beige, which is we can call it '80s rose gold.
Yeah, 79 rose gold. Remember, 79, not 80.
And the caps, it doesn't even say caps, it says caps and lower, so you knew it was for both.
Yeah.
Yes, I could show some of the keys on here.
You had a daisy chain, the peripherals too. This is only one port, so you had to go from one to the next to the next to the next. If you wanted to get like a cassette recorder and a disk drive and a printer. Very efficient.
Yeah. It's like it's very old school. Now here's the other weird thing is that Atari 800 came after the 2600.
Right, by a couple years.
But like I just feel like branding, the numbers always go up. Like this is like in the early days of tech branding, the next generation actually had a lower number than 2600.
Oh, Atari had no idea where to put it.
They had no idea what they were doing.
They changed. In fact, they changed this throughout its life.
Yeah.
They made an XL line, which had some revisions. They made an XE line, which had some more revisions, and the model numbers went every which way. I mean, I wouldn't pay too much attention to the marketing aspect. I do want to highlight that unlike those other computers, it has a cartridge slot.
This is where the games would go.
Some of the games you can play them on disc, you can play from cassette, and you can play from cartridges.
For discs.
Yeah. The floppy drives.
Disc.
Absolutely.
That's in a peripheral.
That would be a peripheral. Yeah.
Okay.
But it had a cartridge slot, so like the 2600, you can even put prepackaged games.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, were either 8K or 16K.
Right.
We have an 8K game right here. This is one of the first games called Star Raiders.
Right.
That came out roughly at the same time as the machine did.
Facebook, you have a question.
What kind of monetary value do these computers have? Because we have a viewer who says they have a never used Commodore 64.
Some of them, if you're going into something that hasn't been touched or is in the box or never used, they're going up into the hundreds. Yeah. They used for a long time in the 90s and early 2000s. These machines were like $30, $20. Now you're starting to see 100, 200. If you've got a new in the box C64, I mean, I'm not as well versed on the C64 side as I am on the Atari side, but you've got you can definitely get at least several $100s, something like that.
Also, why is it unopened?
Oh yeah.
Like what kid got a Commodore 64?
And said, I'm going to keep this and not do anything with it.
Yeah.
I would assume that was an adult, but the kid would be like, what?
And then, I actually found out, so Atari was actually still making these sort of computers until like 92? I mean, that's weird.
It's sort of. It was actually, there was actually some debate about when they finally stopped.
Yeah.
As far as anybody in the U.S. is concerned, they kind of stopped in 86, 87, but they had moved on to the Atari ST, which is a 16-bit platform.
But huge in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, it got larger in Eastern Europe and then kept going. In fact, they even had their own model called the 800XE, which is not available here. But yeah, they kind of kept it alive, and since then, a lot of people in Eastern Europe have been making modifications, which I can go into a little bit later.
Okay, well, let's actually talk about what we have here, and I'm sure people see this. This is, you recreated an Atari system, a working Atari system.
Yeah, recreating is way too generous a word.
You jerry-rigged. Okay, so let's maybe just explain.
It might explode right now, actually.
So we turned it off earlier just to move it from one side of the table to the other, and then when we tried to turn it back on, it didn't go on. A little bit of panic, so we took about 10 times just retrying, and then it just went back on for whatever reason. So maybe explain what we're looking at.
Okay,
here.
So what this was before I ruined it.
It is not a bomb.
Before I ruined it, it was a 130XE. And what we did back in, my friend Sasha and I, who also writes for PC Mag, back in 2005, we hardwired with a soldering gun and a giant mess an interface that lets you put a compact flash card so you can store ROMs on board as opposed to having to keep.
You did this when in 2005?
2005, and actually we wrote it up for ExtremeTech in 2005.
You were a younger man. You were like, should we go to the club tonight, or should we go and solder an Atari
I was already like
together?
31 or something.
Okay,
like even then, like
yeah.
Even then I still had no life. So we put this whole thing together, and then we wrote it up for the magazine as kind of like a homebrew project, how to not use floppy disks anymore. And now, since then, a gentleman by the name of Ben Heck, he has done several amazing portable Atari conversions that look they look better than any finished product Atari ever made. And if he ever sees what I did here, he wouldn't stop laughing. So I mean, but I would definitely look up this guy Ben Heck if you get a chance.
And we'll actually show you what a game looks like on here.
Sure.
Well, here it also is just so it's DOS. It's 2004. This is a newer form of DOS. This is not the home screen.
This is not the original DOS. This is like My Pico DOS. It's a kind of it's another one that came much later. We just used it to build a menu system for the tack together machine.
All right. So we'll actually give this. But before we go, Facebook, you have a question.
Oh boy.
How much did these computers cost at launch?
At launch, the Atari 800 was $999. The 400 was $549. It was supposed to be $499. Then they bumped it up $50. That was only the computer. Maybe you got a basic cartridge thrown in based on the package they were offering. But generally, you also needed a cassette drive, which I think was $449 or something. The 410. And if you had more money, you would get the A10, which is the floppy disk drive, and that was actually faster and stored programs more easily. So you were in it for four figures. Even this machine, which was less expensive than the Apple II.
But the book is actually, we should mention, this is about the games. I mean, actually,
it's about everything.
It's about everything. But
oh yeah.
Concentration, I mean, it actually has Breakout in the title, and Breakout, of course, was the game designed by
Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak for Atari as an arcade game first.
Right.
And then they were actually going to do a machine computer for Atari, and Atari said no, so they went and formed this company called Apple, which you may have heard of. Yeah. It's a little bit of a under the radar, but so this I go into the peripherals. I talk about all of the machines, one to the next, to the XL, to the XE, and then there's a huge middle chapter that talks all about the games.
Okay.
And then after that, I talk about the mods and things like this.
Now, let's see. Now, I like I said, I grew up with the 2600, so this is a generation above that. And you maybe want to actually bring up a game.
Sure.
And the graphics were actually surprised. For early 80s, is pretty good for a home console.
Yeah, let me see if I can find Galaxian, because that actually worked earlier, so that's probably my safest bet here. Let's see. Will it work?
Will it boot?
Of course it won't.
Well, what are some of your favorite games? This is what we're talking here.
The Galaxian port, by the way, is really good on this computer. It does not look like a blue screen. It looks like Galaxian.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Oh, what are some of your favorite games that you're that? If people
wow.
If people are going to go and maybe find some ROMs, what should they play? What's a fun game to play?
The original Archon was developed from Electronic Arts. Was developed on the Atari 800 first. Boulder Dash, Montezuma's Revenge, Fort Apocalypse. Alternate Reality: The City by Philip Price was an amazing adventure game that came out in 1985 that really showed what the computer can do. There's a lot of really good games. I talk about, I think, 108 in the book that I actually go into each one.
Oh wow!
But there were hundreds more on top of that.
Yeah, you had a quote that there were like thousands, and maybe 400 were actually worth playing.
Yeah.
So these were all developed and sanctioned by Atari. They weren't the third parties. Is that correct?
Well, they weren't. Well, I don't know if I used the word sanctioned. Some of them came from Atari, especially all the early ones.
Right.
And then
they opened up the ecosystem later?
Yeah, they gradually opened it up. And originally, Chris Crawford, who founded the Computer Game Developers Conference, which is now GDC, he used to work for Atari. He was kind of an early evangelist for the platform. And he used to go so far as to photocopy sheets of the diagrams of the inside of the computer and the code you would need to program it and send it to people on the phone, but only portions of it, because he wasn't allowed to do all of it. Eventually, he wrote a whole book on it called DV Atari, and he put that out, and everybody can then learn how to program for the computer.
Cool. Facebook, you have a question.
Can you run BASIC on these machines?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's in fact, in a way that I kind of missed today, and I've written about this before. A lot of people programmed for their computers when they had them. They didn't just assume that they just ran apps, and that's it, the way it is now. A lot of people learned BASIC to some level or some other language. From the beginning, Atari had its own version of BASIC that came on cartridge, and then starting with the 600XL and 800XL in 1983, it was built into the machine. So you can just turn it on, and you would see the ready prompt, and you can start programming right there.
I mean, that's also the thing. Let's not overstate is that a lot of people who grew up in the 80s, that's probably where they first learned to code. I mean, I learned to code in BASIC. I don't even remember what the computer was.
Sure, yeah, a lot of us
Yeah,
did.
everyone did. So that's like, it's kind of like a lot of people who kind of built Silicon Valley in the decades that follow. This is kind of the beginnings of all that, or at least where they learned, oh wow, I have the power. This isn't something that's in a university, in the basement somewhere that's taking up a whole room. By this time, technology was small enough and affordable enough, still a little expensive, but not unreachable, that any kid could have this in his bedroom, say here,
absolutely,
later become the editor-in-chief of ExtremeTech.
That wasn't the straightest line, but eventually I got here.
Are we think the game's going to play, or?
Well, let me see. I'll try and get it to work again. I'm going to...
reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it be known that the machine is a little fragile and that it's old, but it's fragile mainly because of what we did to it and not because of... Yeah, see, look at that. That's fantastic.
Facebook, you have a question.
Which race did you play in Mule?
Mule.
Oh my lord!
What is Mule? I'm not.
Mule was a fantastic game by Donnie Bunton for Electronic Arts. I don't remember which race I used to play. I used to alternate. It was a wonderful trading game where you were dropped off on a planet and had to compete with the computer or other players up to 4. You'd have 4 joysticks you can even hook up with the Atari 800. And it was a wonderful game. It was a strategy game. I don't remember which race I preferred, unfortunately. But I think this is dead.
Okay, so R.I.P. machine. Facebook, you have a question.
Well, someone was about to ask, are you going to play Space Invaders on it?
I would have liked to.
Yeah.
Actually, the story, real quick, the story of Space Invaders is interesting because the guy who programmed it for the 800 didn't have any direction. Actually, most programmers back then didn't have any direction from management. They just said, write this game and do it quickly. Yeah. And so this guy was like, I'm going to make my own version of Space Invaders, and made it with like this big thing on the left, and like the invaders came out. It looked totally different than the arcade. And he was just like, he said in interviews later, like, nobody told me I had to make it the same, so I made the version different. So on the Atari 800 and 400, Space Invaders looked different than the arcade, unlike all the other versions.
Cool. So the book is out now. So you get it on Amazon, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm sure we'll leave the link in the comments there. So kind of like to finish up, we always do like a lightning round. So these are short answers. If you're inspired to say more, feel free. Okay, and so you can still ask questions in the comments if you want. Okay, in your personal life or in business, Windows or Mac?
My personal life, both.
Both. Okay, good. For the editor-in-chief of ExtremeTech, that's
I kind of have
the correct answer. Yeah. So then, Android or iOS?
Right now, Android.
Okay.
I jump back and forth, so I have some idea what I'm
What
editing.
phone do you have now?
I have a Nexus 6P right now.
Okay, cool. Okay, have you recently come across a piece of technology that made you think, wow, I'm really living in the future?
Definitely not printer drivers.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's still very much in the past.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about that a lot on ExtremeTech. So we're always talking about quantum computing and machine learning and all this stuff. Which,
but like something that you've got your hands on, like as a consumer.
I still think the phones are amazing. I think just it's something that that it does all your music, or you can read on all your books, you can shoot HD video on it. To me, like I can't lose sight of how amazing that is. That we could do that with a device that's 5 ounces.
And it fits in your pocket.
Like I know it's been 10 years, since we've had the iPhone, and even longer since the Palm, 600 and 650 and all that. But like, to me, I still can't get over it.
I get blown away by like Skype and video calls because I was promised by science fiction for so long, and there were so many false starts before someone got it right.
They lied.
Yeah, they lied. Yeah, but like, do you remember like there were some bad examples of that, like up through the 80s and 90s?
Oh yeah, they said like in the Home Shopping Network would have some kind of device that didn't do anything, like you can see your grandma, and it didn't.
Yeah, but they never worked. But they got it right now. Okay, where do you get your daily news and information from?
Well, it's kind of part of my job since I'm running ExtremeTech, but Google News, tech news or regular news?
All the news.
All the news.
Yeah.
CNN, MSNBC.
Okay.
I feel
but you do the digital. You do what? Like watch on TV, on your phone.
Oh, I'm usually on the computer or on the phone, one or the other.
Cool. Ed Snowden, traitor or hero?
Oh my lord, that's loaded.
Single question, single word answer.
Oh God, that's true.
Okay,
traitor now.
If you don't traitor now, okay,
yeah. It got worse.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Will the singularity occur in 2054?
No.
Oh, editor.
That is my informed opinion.
Informed opinion?
No,
you are very informed. If you say it won't happen, that's actually something I take with a lot of weight.
I was just about to say, I just made that up just now.
Oh,
okay,
really?
You're sure.
Okay, yeah. Will Facebook exist in 20 years?
Am I allowed to say I hope not?
Yes, absolutely.
I would, It's at least without Mafia Wars and all that other stuff, Candy Crush.
All right. Is there intelligent life out there somewhere.
There has to be.
Okay.
Heaven help us. It ain't here.
Yeah. Is Bigfoot out there?
Where are you getting these?
These are what the people want to know.
Wow.
On the convo.
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. What is your go-to drink at the bar?
Whatever, red wine.
Red wine?
I don't know anything about red wine, but I just order it.
Like
anyway.
that's your drink.
Yeah.
Okay. Lendino.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Brooklyn. Like, yeah.
What's your favorite holiday?
My favorite holiday. I'm not really a holiday person, but now I have family, so now I am.
You don't like holidays?
Okay. Then you got to talk to people.
That's true. That's true. That is a downside of the holidays.
Yeah.
Okay, and
You're
finally,
related to them, you're stuck with them. You know.
finally, we're in the golden age of television. What you watching?
Say that again?
We're in the golden age of television right now. So what you watching?
Oh, I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of old Star Trek.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my ears. I could have brought my point.
You have a
ears
young
on
child,
there.
so I imagine you watch.
Oh yeah, so we watch now Sesame
Caillou,
Street.
Sesame
Yeah, we watch
Street.
Sesame Street.
Yeah,
all day, every day.
Yeah, Sesame Street. As far as the children's program.
Yeah, everything we have
not
is
the
either
worst.
a Sesame Street delivery mechanism or a dog picture delivery mechanism.
Oh, she's like the dog pictures.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, but we have a 21-month-old, and she when she sees a dog picture, she goes. So that's kind of what I do with my phone.
Do you have an
with her.
actual dog?
Not yet.
Okay.
Clearly, that's the problem.
Get her a dog.
Yes, that seems to be where we're headed right now.
Okay, so for anybody who's watched the show for the first time, give us a like, give us a share. We appreciate those. And also check out some of our past interviews. Okay, and also the Convo, it's not new, but we are an audio podcast, so we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you like this, give us a like, give us a share, give us a review. Those actually really help the algorithm, help us get out of the algorithm muddle. Okay, so thanks to everyone. Thanks to Jamie Lendino. The new book is Breakout, How Atari 8-Bit Computers Defined a Generation. Check it out, available on Amazon. We'll leave the review there, or the link there in the comments. And also go to ExtremeTech.com. You find, like, if you really like this stuff, like people making their own computers, if you like to hear about the new technologies that are going to be coming down the road and the hot new science, that is a great website. We link to them a lot. They're very cool stuff over there. Check it out. And then thanks to everyone who joined the conversation. Thanks to Social Pete. And as always, be good to each other. Peace.